Alright, page number 38 of standard 10th geography textbook, chapter number 6, population. The central and western part of Brazil is less populated. The density of population in the highlands of Brazil is moderate, that is medium. If we see the population composition, they have shown us a map about the sex ratio in Brazil and India. Sex ratio means the ratio between the men and the women, the males and the females. The geographical explanation for this is that with reference to both the countries, the characteristics of population are prominently notable. They are very unique in characteristics. Brazil has a sex ratio of more than 1000 since decades. Considering the sex ratio of Brazil, the number of women have considerably increased than men since 2001. In India, it's the opposite. Men outnumber women, that is, the number of males are more than the number of females. In India, we see fluctuations in the sex ratio since few decades. Decades means 10 years. There has been a slight increase in the sex ratio after 1991. They have shown us cartoon characters talking to each other, discussing about the graph that they have shown us on the left hand side. What does this graph show? It shows the sex ratio of Brazil and India. And what is sex ratio? Sex ratio means the number of females per 1000 males in region. And it is evident from the graph, it is clearly visible from the graph that the number of women in Brazil have always been more than men, while in India it's the opposite. They have never been more than men. The ladies have always been less than men. Government has started many initiatives like Save Girl, Teach Girl to increase the number of females in the country. They have again shown a new figure 6.4 where they show age and sex pyramid. Depending on the age, how many number of males are there and how many number of females are there. If we see the cartoon characters talking to each other, they are saying that this graph looks different. Why? Because this graph shows age and sex of the population of the country. It is also known as population pyramid. Why is it important? How is it useful? It is used to study the age and sex related aspects of a region's population. So, does it mean that we can know the number or percentage of various age groups of males and females in our country? Yes. This graph, this pyramid helps us to know the population of children, the proportion of the youth and old people in our country. Also, in this pyramid, we can see that the number of young people is more in both the countries, but the proportion of children is more in India, while the proportion of people in the age group above 80 years is more in Brazil. So Brazil has a senior citizen population more than the young people. If we try to give a geographical explanation for this, considering the age of population, Brazil's population is getting slowly older. But in India, the situation is different. The proportion of youth in India is more. We have more young people as compared to Brazil. This means India has a higher percentage of working population. Again, they are giving us population growth rate, and we can see two different graphs for India and Brazil. The graphs show that the growth rate of population of Brazil and India, but the graph line is going down. Why? Because though the lines are showing a downward trend, it does not mean that the population is decreasing. It shows that the growth of the population is lesser as compared to the previous decade, as compared to the previous 10 years. So does that mean that Brazil's population is decreasing? No. This means that the growth is less. The increase in the number of people is less. And looking at this trend, we can be sure that in the near future, Brazil's population may decrease. Not necessary that it will decrease, it may decrease. And why is this happening? This is happening because the rate of growth of population has reduced considerably in Brazil. However, this is not the condition in India. Sorry. From 2001 to 2011, India's population increased by 18.2 crores. In 10 years, we had an increase of 18.2 crores in our population. India's population growth was higher till 1971. After that, it stabilized. The rate of population growth is now declining. But the population is still growing. As compared to the previous years, the increase in the population has come down, but the population is still growing. Whereas in Brazil, it is observed that the rate of growth is declining, and Brazil's population may not increase in the next 2 decades. In the next 20 years, Brazil's population may not increase. That is what the graphs are showing. If we talk about the life expectancy, how long the people will live in these two countries, life expectancy means the average number of years a person born in a country is expected to live. The graph shows that Indians live on an average for 68 years, whereas Brazilians live longer for 75 years. If we compare it with our history, in 1960, the life expectancy of India was around 41 years, but now it has increased and it will continue to increase in the future. Why? Because now we have better medical facilities, better medical infrastructure, and better quality of life. If we try to give a geographical explanation, increase in life expectancy is an indicator of development of that society. Whenever the average age of the population increases, it means that the society is developing. Improvement in health facilities, progress in medical field, access to nutritious food, all these factors lead to an increase in average life expectancy. In most of the developing countries, life expectancy is still less. But with socio-economic development, the life expectancy is increasing. If we talk about the literacy rate, whether the population is educated or not, the graph shows that as the number of years are increasing, the literacy rate is improving, both in Brazil as well as in India. In 2011, in 2016, the literacy rate in Brazil was 92.6%, whereas in India it was 72.2%, and it has been keeping on increasing over the years. They have given us a small green box, small purple box, in which they are informing us that the Census of India conducts enumeration of population every 10 years. Similarly, in Brazil, IBGE, that is Brazil Institute of Geography and Statistics, carries out census every 10 years. The first census survey of both India as well as Brazil was carried out in 1872. Then in India, census is conducted at the start of the decade, at the start of the 10-year period, 1961, 1971, etc. Whereas Brazil conducts census at the end of the decade, that is at the end of the 10-year period, 1960, 1970, etc. That brings us to the end of this chapter. Is anyone having any doubts, questions or issues in this chapter? Yes? No? Okay. Alright. I want all of you to go through this chapter, revise and answer the questions that are appearing at the end of the chapter. Tomorrow we will be meeting in the school. Until then, Take care everyone. Goodbye.